You're alone. The house is silent. Then, out of nowhere, a sound, faint, unmistakable. You freeze. Was it real? Or just your mind playing tricks? But what if it wasn't your imagination? What if these phantom sounds were your brain's way of warning you? A signal that something is deeply wrong? A groundbreaking 2023 study uncovered a disturbing link between these eerie experiences and dementia, Parkinson's, and other devastating brain disorders. If you've noticed these unexplained sounds, your brain might already be in serious danger. Let's break this down, starting now. Number 1. A constant ringing in your ears. Helen, a 65-year-old woman, was sitting in her quiet living room when she noticed a faint ringing in her ears. At first, she assumed it was temporary. Maybe she had been around loud noises earlier. But the sound never faded. Days turned into weeks, and the ringing followed her everywhere. It was there when she woke up, while watching TV, even when she lay in bed at night, surrounded by silence. A year later, she was diagnosed with early-stage Alzheimer's. A shocking 2023 study revealed that people with persistent tinnitus, a constant ringing, buzzing, or hissing sound in the ears, are 70% more likely to experience cognitive decline. Scientists now believe the brain, when struggling to process real sound properly, fills in the gaps with phantom noises. The more it happens, the more it suggests the brain's sensory processing is starting to fail. Many dismiss ringing in the ears as an ear-related issue, but when it becomes chronic and unrelenting, it could be an early neurological warning sign. If you've been experiencing a constant high-pitched ringing that doesn't fade, your brain may already be undergoing structural changes. Number 2. Hearing your name when no one called you. James, a 74-year-old man, was reading a book when he heard his wife call his name from the kitchen. He got up, walked in, and asked her what she needed. She looked at him, confused. She hadn't said a word. It wasn't the first time this had happened. Over the next few months, he repeatedly heard his name being called when no one was speaking. At first, he laughed it off. But when his memory started slipping, his doctor ordered tests, and the results confirmed vascular dementia. Startling research from 2022 has found that hearing your own name when no one said it is often one of the first signs of auditory hallucinations tied to neurodegeneration. The brain, struggling to process speech correctly, begins misfiring signals, making it generate voices that aren't real. Hearing your name is uniquely disturbing because the brain is programmed to recognize it faster than any other word. When the brain's auditory and speech processing centers start to fail, they can produce phantom speech, often your own name, making you think someone is speaking to you when they're not. If this happens once or twice, it's likely harmless. But if it keeps happening, it could be a sign that your brain's perception of reality is breaking down. Number 3. Phantom doorbells or phone ringing. Linda, a 71-year-old woman, was home alone when she suddenly heard the doorbell ring. She walked to the door, expecting a delivery, but no one was there. Minutes later, it happened again. After weeks of this, she started hearing her phone ringing too, but when she checked, there was no incoming call. Her family assumed she was just imagining things, but after undergoing neurological tests, doctors confirmed mild cognitive impairment. A disturbing 2023 study found that phantom doorbells, phone rings, or alarms are linked to auditory memory failures in the aging brain. When neurons responsible for recognizing familiar sounds start misfiring, the brain begins replaying old signals at random, creating the illusion that a doorbell just rang or a phone is vibrating when neither happened. Many people dismiss these phantom noises, assuming they're just hearing things. But if you're frequently experiencing false alarms, ringing, or buzzing sounds when nothing is actually making noise, your brain may be losing its ability to properly filter and interpret sound. Number 4. Faint music playing when everything is silent. Barbara, a 71-year-old woman, woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of classical music playing softly in the distance. It wasn't coming from her house. Her radio was off, and her husband was asleep. The next day, she heard it again. Always the same tune. It followed her for months until she finally told her doctor, who ran cognitive tests. The results showed early signs of Lewy body dementia. This eerie experience is called musical hallucinosis. A shocking 2021 study found that older adults who experience phantom music, whether it's a song, a distant radio broadcast, or a repeating melody, are at a much higher risk of developing brain atrophy in the auditory and memory centers. Unlike a song stuck in your head, this music feels external, as if it's really playing somewhere nearby. But it's not. It's your brain misfiring auditory signals, tricking you into hearing sounds that don't exist. If you've noticed phantom tunes or distant radio-like sounds, this could be a clear sign that your brain's sound processing system is deteriorating. Number 5. Sudden exploding sounds while falling asleep. Samuel, a 68-year-old man, had just closed his eyes when he suddenly heard a loud explosion. It was so real that he jumped out of bed, heart pounding, expecting to see shattered glass or a blown-out light bulb. But there was nothing. The next night, it happened again. A deafening boom just as he was dozing off. It became so frequent that he started avoiding sleep altogether. When he finally saw a neurologist, he was told this was a warning sign of neurodegenerative brain changes. This is called exploding head syndrome, and it's more than just a strange sleep disturbance. A terrifying 2022 study revealed that people who frequently hear sudden phantom explosions before falling asleep have a significantly higher risk of developing neurological disorders, including dementia and stroke. Scientists believe it happens when the brainstem malfunctions, creating false sound signals that register as an explosion. Many people brush this off, thinking it's just stress or a bad dream. But doctors warn that if this happens repeatedly, it could indicate a serious breakdown in the brain's sensory processing system. If you've ever heard any of these phantom noises, your brain could be sending distress signals. But the most unsettling sounds, the ones that truly predict brain decay, are still coming. Let's continue. Number 6. A low, distant humming that won't go away. Bob, a 70-year-old man, started noticing a low, vibrating hum in his house. It was so faint that at first, he thought it was coming from his refrigerator or heating system, but no matter where he went, the sound followed him. It was worse at night, making it impossible to sleep. His wife couldn't hear it. A year later, a neurologist confirmed he had early-stage dementia. A shocking 2023 study found that people who experience phantom humming or buzzing often have degeneration in the brainstem, the part responsible for processing low-frequency sounds. When this system starts failing, the brain fills in the gaps by generating a hum that isn't real. This phenomenon is not just an annoyance. Doctors warn that persistent phantom humming can indicate the early breakdown of the brain's sensory control system. If you've heard a mysterious low hum that no one else notices, it could be your brain sending distress signals. Number 7. Phantom conversations. Ada, a 73-year-old woman, was sitting in her living room when she heard whispers in the background. It sounded like a group of people talking in another room, but the words were indistinct. She assumed it was the neighbors, until she realized the voices seemed to follow her, even when she moved to a different part of the house. Eventually, her family became concerned, and doctors diagnosed her with Parkinson's-related cognitive decline. New research from 2022 found that people who frequently hear muffled conversations that aren't real are at a higher risk of developing dementia or Parkinson's disease. Scientists discovered that neurons in the brain's speech processing centers begin misfiring, making distant chatter feel real, even when there's complete silence. Many people brush this off, thinking it's their imagination or background noise. But when these phantom voices become frequent, it's a warning sign that the brain's ability to filter real sounds from false ones is starting to fail. Number 8. Ghostly footsteps or knocking. Frank, a 67-year-old man, was alone in his house when he started hearing faint footsteps coming from the hallway. It was always the same pattern, 3 or 4 steps, then silence. He checked multiple times, but found nothing. Then came the knocking. He swore someone was tapping on the walls at random times. But whenever he investigated, the noise stopped. His doctor later confirmed mild cognitive impairment, a precursor to dementia. A 2022 study found that phantom knocking and footsteps can result from spatial perception errors in the aging brain. When neurons responsible for movement and sound cues start to deteriorate, the brain creates false auditory sensations, making it seem like someone is moving or tapping nearby when no one is there. Many people experience mild auditory illusions. But when these sounds become persistent or increasingly detailed, it suggests the brain is struggling to interpret reality correctly. If you frequently hear footsteps, knocking, or unexplained rustling noises, this could be your brain's way of warning you that something is wrong. Number 9. A sudden screeching or static sound in one ear. Patricia, a 66-year-old woman, was walking through her bedroom when she suddenly heard a sharp, high-pitched screech in her left ear. It was so loud and sudden that she instinctively covered her ear, expecting pain. But within seconds, it was gone. At first, she dismissed it as an ear issue, until it started happening more frequently. A year later, a neurologist diagnosed her with vascular dementia. A disturbing 2023 study found that random bursts of phantom high-frequency noises in one ear can be an early sign of auditory cortex disruptions. This happens when one side of the brain starts misfiring signals to the auditory system. These sudden, sharp auditory distortions are often mistaken for temporary ear issues, but researchers warn that if they happen repeatedly, they could signal a more serious neurological problem. If you've ever experienced a screeching or static burst that came out of nowhere, pay close attention. It might not be your ears, but your brain struggling to process sound. Hearing phantom sounds doesn't always mean you have dementia, but ignoring them could be a dangerous mistake. These noises are often early distress signals from the brain, warning that cognitive function is declining. If you experience any of these phantom sounds repeatedly, start paying attention to when and how often they occur. Are they getting louder, more frequent, accompanied by memory issues, confusion, or difficulty focusing? These are signs that something deeper is happening. Experts recommend getting a cognitive assessment if these phantom noises persist. A neurologist can assess your auditory system and suggest ways to slow its decline. Dementia doesn't happen overnight, but these early warning signs could give you a critical head start.
And there you have it. What are your thoughts? Next, dive into this video for more essential tips to transform your health and help you thrive. You're going to love it. Thanks for watching Healthy End, and we'll see you there.